It's emerged today that Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Brent Seabrook, Duncan Keith, they're not happy right now. They're not happy because clearly the Chicago Blackhawks, I think to label it as just pure flat out selling and going into a rebuild is something we can all debate. But the reality is Chicago's overdue. The Chicago Blackhawks won the cup for the last time in 2015, and I don't think with this core it happens again. And I can understand that for players in Chicago right now, their thought process is, hey, we want to get back to that. But really, I don't see how you do it. So we're just going to take a look from the cap perspective at where they're at. Right now, the Chicago Blackhawks have $8.41 million in cap space. Stan Bowman can still add. And he saved a little bit of money on picking up Zadorov and letting go of Brandon Saad. And, Brandon Saad this past season, 21 goals, 12 assists, 33 points in 58 games. Good season for him. Saad's a good player. But again, he picks up a physical defender in Zadorov, figures he's improving that blue line. And keep in mind, Zadorov, likely the number 5 defenseman on that roster. So let's look at the forwards first. You got Patrick Kane, 31 years of age, $10.5 million is his cap hit until 2023. Jonathan Toews has an identical cap hit of $10.5 million. He's 32 years of age, and he's there till 2023. So if the Blackhawks really wanted to go into a full rebuild, selling off Toews would be a way to save $10.5 million in cap space a year. And while Jonathan Toews is still an excellent forward, I do think his best seasons are likely in the rearview mirror. Now, Kane, I'm not going to say that about because Kane just seems to get better all the time. DeBrincat's 22 years of age, $6.4 million is his cap hit until 2023. He had a down year. He should be able to rebound. He should be able to get back to, I'll guess, 35 goals at minimum. The kid can score. Had a very bad year by his standards, but he has to rebound. Kubalik, 25 years of age, $3.7 million for the next 2 seasons. He showed he could score in his rookie season. Zach Smith, 32 years of age, $3.25 million is his cap hit for 1 more year. Have to mention Kirby Dach. Dach, of course, 19 years of age, $925,000 cap hit for 2 more years. Strome's 23 years of age. He's a restricted free agent, and they need a bounce-back year from Strome as well. So their top 6 right now, and again, this is just spitballing because this is not an official preview of any sort. Kubalik, Toews, Kane, DeBrincat, Strome, and Dach. Now, Dach would play center, and I understand he plays center. Part of the problem is you have Strome and Dach both playing down the middle, and on the wing, it projects that you could have Nylander in the top 6. And so that right side does need to be fixed. The exit of Saad is noticeable there. That being said, they have the cap space to bring somebody else in who may cost less than Saad. So I'm not really ready to say that's it, they're in a full sell mode, because I need to see the finished product. While I understand that the core might be fed up and that's it, we're done. The reality is this is a team that just wasn't good enough. We saw that against Vegas. Vegas against Chicago really wasn't close. They won 1 game because Crawford willed it. And outside of that, they weren't winning anything else. So Keith is 37 years of age, starts out the Blue Liners. He makes the most money of the guys who are going to play, $5.4 million. 2023 is when his contract expires. And Keith, much like Toews, still excellent player. Is he still at his peak? No. Still an excellent player, not at his peak. Calvin DeHaan, 29 years of age, $4.55 million. 2022 is when that expires. Connor Murphy, 27 years of age, $3.85 million. Expires in 2022. Nikita Zadorov, of course, 25 years of age, $3.2 million till 2021. So, 1-year deal, $3.2 million. Show me contract. And Boquist, 20 years of age, $894,000 until 2022 when he'll be due for an increase. So the top 4 likely is going to be Keith, Murray, DeHaan, and Boquist. Now, not on the list on purpose is Seabrook. Seabrook is really, that's the contract they've been trying to trade for a long time, and teams won't bite on it. 35 years of age, makes $6.88 million in cap until 2024. It is a brutal contract, and He's been hurt regularly and for long periods. And Andrew Shaw is still listed as being on the IR. I would think he starts with them to start next season. 29 years of age, $3.9 million until 2022. It's a lot of money tied up in the IR of guys who could come back. And there are questions about Shaw coming back and questions, of course, about Seabrook. Now, where I can understand players being frustrated might be goaltending. But it's possible that Stan Bowman looks at their goaltenders and goes, you know what, Delia, I don't have Lankinen on the board, but Lankinen has put up good numbers in the minors, put up good numbers internationally. He might be looking at what Columbus did and saying, hey, it worked out for Columbus. Now, Delia is 26. If you're going to give Delia a shot at an NHL job, you have to do it now. He's 26 years of age. $1 million cap hit for 2 years, and Malcolm Subban has an $860,000 cap hit for 2 years. They decided to retain him. He's also 26 years of age. Subban did not have a great year, admittedly, but Subban can be an adequate backup. I'm not going to say great backup. I'm not. But adequate backup, absolutely. And then, of course, if we're going to talk about players that likely get into this eventually, I'll say that Reichel's a year or two away. Their top four, Keith, Murphy, DeHaan, Boqvist. I'll say that's likely your top four. The problem for Chicago really has been they haven't committed to a rebuild. I'm saying that because if you look at their record, 2017-2018, 33 wins, 39 losses, and 10 overtime losses or shootout losses, 76 points. 2018-2019, 36 wins, 34 losses, 12 overtime losses or shootout losses, 84 points. This past season, 32-30-8 with 72 points. And, of course, the 8 overtime loss, shootout loss points. They won less than half of their games for 3 straight seasons, since 2017 when they got swept in the first round by Nashville. This is not a team that's close. I could understand the core guys saying, I don't understand, I'm not signing on for a rebuild. But this team hasn't made the playoffs in 3 years. They acquired Doc because they won the draft lottery. They got the draft lottery win. Well, third, so they won one of the stages of the draft lottery. They won the third spot. And they won that because Chicago wasn't that great that year. And there wasn't a whole lot of complaining about Doc being the number 3 pick going to Chicago. There were some concerns that Lafreniere would end up in Chicago. And I think if Lafreniere had ended up in Chicago, we'd be having a whole different conversation. And I think Stan Bowman might be approaching this differently. But for Bowman, who takes a lot of flack, and I understand why, I do. There are moves that Stan Bowman makes that I don't understand. He's in this uncomfortable spot. So he's got Kane, he's got Taves, he's got Keith. They eat up $16 million $26 million between the three of them. If it was 16, there wouldn't be a problem. $26 million between the three of them. And so you have to build with that in mind, and it is difficult to sell a team on a rebuild when you have Kane, Taves, and Keith there. You still have those 3 core pieces from Stanley Cup wins dating back a decade. But it dates back a decade. That first Cup win was 10 years ago. And again, while I will not argue anything against Kane, I will say this. All 3 of them are over 30. This is a league that keeps getting younger. And Doc is the future for this team. I'll say Boqvist is one of those future guys on their blue line. And there are others as well for Chicago that are going to come in. Like I said, Reichel at some point will come in. But 2017-2018, if we look at the numbers, they were 22nd in goals for. 2018-2019, they're 8th in goals for. In this past season, they're 18th. So their attack has been mediocre. For the most part, it's been mediocre. And if it wasn't for Patrick Kane, it would likely be a lot worse than that. Kane really does drag this team to some wins that they probably shouldn't get. Defensively, there's been a problem. And this is where I think Bowman might be trying to fix this. 22nd in goals against in 2017-2018, 2018-2019, 30th in goals against, and this past year, they were 21st. So that means blue line and goaltending. Now, Corey Crawford played 40 games this year, and he has a .917 save percentage. Crawford was healthy this year, but I could understand moving on from Crawford. I think where Chicago fans, and probably the Chicago core gets upset, is that you move on from Crawford, and then you basically say, we're not going to go out and get somebody else. We're not going to go out and throw money. So I'll say this. Let's just say they went out and they got Markstrom. Let's just say that Markstrom had gone to Chicago and signed the same deal that he got from Vancouver or from Calgary to get out of Vancouver. $6 million would mean they'd only have $2.41 million in cap space. That's with the trade of Brandon Saad. That's with losing Olli Maatta. Olli Maatta, 65 games, 4 goals, 13 assists, 17 points for him. Kajula, they didn't qualify. They let him go. 40 games, 9 goals, 6 assists, 15 points. If they had kept Crawford, if they had spent 4.5, and they tried initially to keep Crawford, just he wouldn't accept their offers. If they had got Crawford to come back for, say 3.9 million, now you're getting a lot closer to the cap. If they'd kept Saad, you're basically a cap team, and are they any better than the team that finished last season 21st in goals against and 18th in goals for? And special teams tell you a lot with Chicago too, and this is bizarre because, again, you've got these future Hall of Famers dotting this lineup. 15.99% on the power play in 2017-2018, 20.17 the year after, and this past season, 15.21. This is a power play that's had major problems, and whether it's the guys on the ice or whether it's coaching, guys can decide. But the penalty kill has had its issues too. 79.24% 2 seasons ago, 72.73% the year after, and the season we just finished, 82.13%. So the penalty kill was good this past season, best it's been, but the overall number still doesn't add up to 100. And as we say, if you take your power play, you add it to the penalty kill, it should add up to at least 100%. And if it doesn't, it means that your special teams just aren't good enough. And so there has to be some of that blame shared by the players. The direction for Chicago is it's really difficult to navigate because of no movement clauses, because of the amount of money that's being thrown at guys who, I don't know how much better things would get. Let's just say Bowman said, all right, I'm going to add and we're going to go for it. Can you take this team and, staying under the cap, make a team that would legitimately challenge the Colorado Avalanche, that would legitimately challenge a new revamped Winnipeg Jets that look like they could be a powerhouse? Can we build a team in Chicago that the next time they would play Vegas in the playoffs could really, really push them and maybe knock them out? I don't know that you can, because time is undefeated. And this is a team that I think the argument can be made they should have been rebuilding. And the funny thing is, Hawks fans have complained for years. When Shaw came back, there were complaints. Oh, he's trying to go back, and this isn't going to work. Other contracts on the board when they were signed that people said, well, that's not going to work. Bowman's trying to recapture the past. He's trying to recapture their glory. He doesn't understand this team needs to go through a rebuild. And now here's Bowman making moves that have the core thinking, well, what are they doing? Are they rebuilding? And the answer is they probably need to. You look at what the Rangers have done. The Rangers, in the time since Chicago won their last cup, they've kind of torn it down, and now it looks like they're ready to, actually come out of this retool they've done and make it work. If Bowman is doing any kind of a retool or a rebuild, does he have to tell his core players he's doing this? No, he doesn't. Should he? Yes. These guys have been members of the organization for a very long time. And with that amount of money, that gives them some power, some control, some say in how things go. We've seen that complaint about Eichel and Buffalo, but it's real. I mean, if you're committing that amount of money to a player, that means that you have faith in them in many ways, and not just to score points and goals. You're basically telling them you're a leader, you're the face of this franchise, so you should. It should be an instance where they sit down, where Stan Bowman sits these guys down and not ask their permission, but say, so, all right, we're going into the off season. Here's what we're going to do. There's going to be some short-term pain, but I think this is the best way forward. And if he's not communicating that to the players, he really should. So the fact that this has gotten out, the players don't like the idea of a rebuild, I understand it, but they haven't been good enough to make the playoffs the last 3 years. Keep in mind, they made the playoffs this year because of the format change. Because we went to this play-in scenario, they were able to upset the Edmonton Oilers, who just looked lost in some of those games. And Chicago took advantage of that. But then against Vegas, a team that was dialed in and looked like a contender, Chicago just didn't have anything to answer that. And I'm sure Stan Bowman, watching that series, said this team just isn't good enough. But he needed to tell them. So we'll see what happens. And I know there's going to be a lot of complaining about they need to fire Jeremy Colleton and they need to fire Stan Bowman and they need to blow the whole thing up. But again, if you fire the GM, you fire the coach, what do you tell the new GM? What is the direction that the Chicago Blackhawks have to take? They're a fascinating team because it feels like overnight they went from a contender when we were entering the 2017 playoffs to being exposed during that first round series where Nashville sweeps them, and ever since then it's been a struggle. But again, it's going to be an interesting storyline to follow in the offseason because now that Taves has come out and said publicly, yeah, I'm ticked off, I'm angry. We're angry, we're done, we're fed up. And you've got Seabrook, who's been on the IR, and his contract's been problematic. And like I said, they've been trying to move it. Does that mean Seabrook's going to be healthy? And if Seabrook's healthy and goes into that lineup next year, where does he play? Does he end up in the top 6? Does he end up being a healthy scratch? Does that make people upset? Like, this is a tough situation. And so for Stan Bowman, again, I understand the dislike for all those things. I've seen plenty of comments over the years, but it's not easy. Because if you bring back Crawford at 35 years of age, does he rediscover that form that he showed against Edmonton and against Vegas? Not necessarily. Again, time is undefeated, and he wasn't brought in by New Jersey to be the starter. He's the backup in New Jersey for Blackwood. Crawford, if he'd been brought back by Chicago, who is he backing up? Odds are he would have been the starter, and that could have been problematic. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the Hawks, the state they're in, and how they need to get to that next level. And again, I do agree that he's been spending a bunch of money, he's Stan Bowman, on guys for years now, trying to defy gravity. That gravity that takes a team from the top of the standings and pulls them down. And, maybe he's finally realized he needs to make changes to just bottom out. But I don't necessarily see it that way. I don't think it's that set in stone that that's the plan here. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.